Welcome to Bunny's Designs. I'm just showing, I made this palette a few months ago and there's little left in there. Also it seems. So I had quite a bit of the original Elysian Crimson in there. So I'm just working my way through the book. And these colours are going to get paler and paler and paler. But I'm quite desperate to put my professional watercolours in there. But I can't wash this colour out, and I want to prove just how many pages and the colour, when it's reduced with water, it gets paler and paler. So you get some really unusual colours. So I'm just going to keep going until there's nothing left. And it's a bit of an experiment, really. I've done this before and you would be amazed at just how much how much colour you waste when you wash your palettes out and when you wash your brushes out. And as a tight Yorkshire lass, I just can't do that. Apologies in advance. The postman should be arriving soon. So I have actually sprayed this. I don't normally do that, but I've sprayed it, so it is quite wet. So I've got to get quite a lot of that off. But this Johanna Basford Magical Jungle book. It's really nice paper, and actually I did this quite wet last night, and it's not even shown through at all. There's nothing at all on there. So it's doing quite well with this, and I've changed the angle of my desk just slightly. Excuse me. No, I'm really sorry there will be sniffing as well. I've got a chest infection, not good. And I just thought I would. And this is a little bit damper than I normally work, but it puts you in good stead for using on different papers. I also try and do a photocopy first, and that will allow you to now I'm using a bigger brush, and that and it's not brilliant because I'm using the wrist more, but I quite like that colour, so I'm going to put it on this side as well, up here. I am just using the colour up, but I still don't want to mess this book up. It's still quite a nice book, so I'm trying to be a little bit careful with it as well. Oh, morning, little P. Welcome to Bunny's Designs. I'm still, I'm a bit of a sniffle pots this morning, so excuse me. I'm still using the palette up, so that, because I thought I was going to bite the bullet and wash it out, and then I decided no, I've got to persevere and use up all the colour. So there could be a bark alert. So I just thought I'd see how much I could get out of this palette, because I want to get those Winsor & Newton professional watercolours in there. We're going away in a couple of weeks, and I want to get I want to take them with me. Oh yes, poor you had an accident, didn't you? I'm glad I didn't fall on my knee, because I need 2 new knees. So We can imagine what that mess would be. I suppose they would then make me have it done. Instead of me chickening out, I try and walk. Try to walk quite normally when I'm going in there. And I say, no, it's all right. We'll wait a bit longer. And he said, okay, we'll put you back another 6 months. Just a chicken. Just a chicken. I hope you put lots of ice on it, little pea. I have in the bottom of the freezer. My dad don't eat peas now, but we'd had some beans, not green beans, broad beans in the freezer, and they used to be quite expensive, but they've been in there a while. And my last attack of gout, just could not stand the pain and nothing was working, and so I split the bag between 2 food bags, and so at the bottom of the freezer I have permanently these, and I just refreeze them. So we took one out, we put the other one in the freezer, and we're not going to eat them, so we just keep refreezing them, and they do quite well. So I've got, because green beans, I don't know, they've just got a little bit more surface area, so it kind of just sat on my ankle really nicely. So I suggest going to get some cheap peas or green beans from the freezer place, splitting the bag in half so there's more room in the bag, and then kind of sealing them up again so that you can just, well, one's in the freezer, the other one's on your ankle. Because that's the only thing that can really help. And it's good for kiddie winkles if they've got a bad head as well. And there seems to be some paint stuck on the side there. So I'm going to get that out. And I've just realised I didn't sort the camera. Just bear with me 2 seconds. Looks more like it. Sorry, bark alert. Oh, rat bag. I don't know what he's seen. Sorry about that. I haven't got a clue what he's seen. I keep trying different things with this focus. I haven't quite got it right yet. I've been using the words on here because it's colourful. So see if we can just make sure that's it. We don't have anybody walking past our house, and for some reason I think that might be better. Hopefully that's. Oh, bread's a good one. Bread's a good poultice. I used to use bread. If you take brown bread and put boiling water in it, and as hot as you can stand it, you put it on a burn or a sting. Sorry, not a burn, a sting, and it draws the poison out. And they used to use that for horses, but I've used it for humans, and it's. And when the bread's cold, all the poison's gone. Because next door's got horses, next door we have a lot of horse flies, and they're quite nasty things if you have a horse fly sting. It's not nice. Just putting a piece of paper because I don't want to. As I say, even though I'm using up cheap paint, this paint was just short of £3. It's the Cotman watercolour paints that I used. I don't know where the yellow one's gone, but I used these for making all these colours from 3 colours. I had a lemon yellow, alizarin crimson and a cerulean blue, and they were because I was doing the colour mixing with printer inks, and these were the nearest colours. So I have all these colours from 3 tubes of 99p each, and there's still some colour left in here, so I thought that was quite a good buy. And it's quite good paint, it's good quality, it's student quality, but it's quite fine, and it's done quite a few pages, and quite a few colour mixing as well. And I'm just going to take an old brush because I'm not going to waste any. Oh, I wonder where that was. I bought that to do Inktober, and my hand was bad, so I might actually attempt a proper Inktober as soon as I'm at my desk. I can use this brush here, and what I intend to do is scrape all this colour that's stuck here into the water. I want every scrap of colour. I just a bit like a blue in there. I scrape every scrap of colour out. It's just an experiment, and now this is full of colour, which I don't want to waste. So I'll put that back in, just make sure it's dry, and I'll put it on there. Because I don't want to do anything to this book really, so that's really made all that now. And this brush is probably a little bit too big, but because I've got to squeeze everything out of there, so again it's just a damp brush, but it's now full of colour, it's not full of water. And I'm quite enjoying, this is a bit free way of working, and I'm quite enjoying it because I'm not thinking about the colours, because the colours are there, so it's one less thing to worry about. And that's the nice thing about the little book of colours. I just flick, see a colour, go for it. I don't have to mix it, I don't have to think about it. I'm quite a lazy girl that way. But it also cuts down messing about mixing colours. It depends what mood you're in. I don't know if I'm the only person that finds that sometimes you want to be creative and sometimes you just want to play with colour. But I'm going to do all my colour mixing in here. They're going to be this palette, but it'll be with professional watercolours, and then that'll last me a few months. So again, I don't have to think about it. Because in the Kirby Roseanne colour books, I'm using the professional watercolours. In this book, I'm using all the palettes that I have left. So it is more creative colour. This brush is that little bit too big for that. I've not thought about using Bread Little P, that's a new one on me. I'm just going to the, this is the medium brush. I'm using these 3 that I bought that I haven't used before, but again I bought them in 3 riggers, a medium, a small and a large, because I think that's the best. And probably going in with a little one now, the smallest one, which is a 0, I think, a number 3. I've got 3, 5 and 6. But I didn't actually look at that. I looked at the riggers, I looked at the size of the brushes and thought, well, that's a fat one, that's a medium one, and that's a finer one. And that's how I choose them. I didn't actually look at the numbers, because a lot of synthetic brushes are not accurate when it comes to size, so I kind of look at the bristles, and this was to be a wetter way of working than before, because it'll hold more water. So but I could have just come back into here, and if you'd have washed the brush out, and I quite like the fact that it's a bit variegated, it's not dead flat colour. I quite like that idea. Excuse me, as I say, I've got the bit of a croaky voice today. And again, as I said, this is the one that I do in front of the TV. So it's quite nice to just use the colours that you've got. And it's experimenting with the colours that are left. And what you're doing is what I would normally do on a photocopy paper. Is playing about with colour. Because sometimes you think, I would never have put those two, this purpley blue. And I did label them all, so if that was purple, that would be blue purple. Oh, tell a lie. This one is the French ultramarine that I've attempted to make, and it's not brilliant, as you can tell. That's the original cerulean blue, and I've added a touch of purple to this. And because I couldn't get French ultramarine, it is a purple blue, but it's not purple enough really for me. Push back on that. Sorry, is that better? Is that better? It looks purpley blue, but when you look at it, it's still a cold blue. And because I didn't get the French ultramarine, I didn't get a bright purple. My purples are a bit dull, and that's the reason. But French ultramarine is really difficult to make, and which is why you need 6 colours to mix all your other colours, really, because you need that French ultramarine to get those really beautiful vivid purples, but you also need the cerulean blue to get the beautiful bright greens. And I think there's a bit here. I thought I'd managed to get this into frame, but then of course I zoomed in a little bit. So again, I wouldn't have normally used those colours, but because they're here, and I shouldn't really be doing that, but just put that in there. So I've cleaned the brushes. And I've been using this on my knee. I bought this for my daughter, this little green tray, and because she's gone to college and she's cleaned out everything, she brought it downstairs and put it in my room and said, "Do you want it back, Mummy?" So I said, okay then. So I'm using my little pot of water. Not that I need it particularly for this, and I just want to use this green here, this yellowy green. So again, this would be the chartreuse of the tertiary colour, because that's the green, and they had a bluey green and I had a yellowy green. And I'm putting those in there actually because they're running around a bit. So I decided that I'd quite like to use these colours. And again, I wouldn't normally use these colours. That's why it's quite unusual. And so it teaches you something else. I mean, some of the colours I might think, oh, what was I thinking? But at least, yes, there's not much in these two. One's a 5 and one's a 6. But when you actually look at them, there is a difference. But I'm working a lot wetter than I normally do, but cannot wash this colour out. And this colour, these colours here, will fill this double page spread. And again, I think that's just amazing that you think, oh, well, that palette's almost gone now, let's wash it out. And you get the most beautiful pale colours. And it's another dimension to your watercolours. So you can do them quite fairly thick colours with opaque. But then by adding water, you get some really pale colours from every colour, so that gives you about at least 10 shades from every colour that's in here. So that's 80. I think there's 18. Is there 18? How many is in here? 2, 4, 6, 12, 14, 16. There's 18. So there's 180 colours from 18 colours just by you, the paintbrush and water. So never think it's a limited palette. And then that doesn't include mixing other colours either. That's just using them as a dead colour. And that's what I will be doing when I do the Kirby Roseanne Imagimorphia. I will be using my 18 colours for my colour wheel that I'm going to make in very similar ways to this. But I will be using 6 colours instead of the 3 printer ink colours. I will be using 6 colours. So I'll have a warm and a cold yellow, a warm and a cold blue, and a warm and a cold red. And then that gives me every colour that I want, because I love working in the Kirby Roseannes, mixing a little bit of colour. And that's a very, 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 it's either a greeny yellow or a yellowy green, and that's the tertiary colour. So that's in between. It's not the bright green. That's probably the yellow. The yellow. I can't talk this morning. That's the yellow. And I've missed a little bit just inside there. So before I go any further, I'll take the little brush. Just touch that purple. And just feel that. Oops. I think it's a lot wetter than I'm used to working. I mean, you can go over that and do some more shading if you wanted to with a different brush. If I put that brush there, I know where it is. I know where it is. And there's some other yellow here. I'll just zoom in a little bit. I'll just do this for a little while longer and then I do like this little tray. It seemed to work quite well. So again, in here there's a lot of colour stuck to the side, so that's going to be stronger. It's going to be a stronger colour. And I'm not adverse to putting some of that blue into that to make a different green. In fact, I'm going to do that. I'm going to put some of this into here. And that is really, really watered down now. And that is a little bit of a big brush for that. So I've got quite a lot of colour on here. So what I've been doing is, instead of wasting the colour, is putting it here, and then this brush is damp, just teasing it up, and then I'm not wetting the page too much, so I'm really quickly moving that up there, so that puddle of water isn't sitting on there. And so I'm going to get all this shrub from this fat paintbrush of colour. And I'm quite like working with these paler colours, because I've got all the other things going on in the other books for bright colours. So again, I love the fact that the different books are bringing out a different same method but different techniques for different pale colours. So it's really stretching these colours. These are the same watercolours, the same colours. All I'm doing is taking them to the palest they've ever been, just purely by adding water but working still quite dry, so I'm not damaging the page. And that's kind of given me another string to my bow, as they say. Because if I was worried that I was using the same method in each book, and it was like, oh, that's going to be boring. She's got 10 books and she's going to colour them in all the same way. And that actually hasn't happened. I mean, boring for me as well. You know, I would not like to do this in every book. So if I'm at home watching the TV, I will do this book because it doesn't take a lot of thinking about. I'm just playing with colour. The Kirby Roseanne, I couldn't do that on a train really. Although, having said that, I did the little one. It depends. It sounds silly, but it depends. If we're going to London and it's kind of a smooth track, it's fine. But if you're pootling somewhere else on a short journey, the track is a bit kind of rubbish, and the trains are a bit rubbisher as well. Because I took it with me to do on another train, and I just couldn't do it. It was too bouncy. So most trains you can do them. And hubby went to London last week, and I normally would have gone down and had a bit of a wander, but and I don't see me being able to ever afford an electric wheelchair, so that's me stuck in the house. So that's not brilliant. So I'm quite enjoying that. And again, look, now there's tons of colour in there, which I would have just washed away. So in fact, I'm quite enjoying this actually. So I don't have to move my hand too much to lift the paint. It's on there. I'm just stroking it through, and it behaves itself really, really nicely. Have to say, it's a really nice, easy way to work. And that means that, you know, if this is all you can do all day, you can do it all day. I mean, I am so lazy. I sit here and do this all day. That's all I do. I don't even make a drink of tea because I'm not allowed to use the kettle because I drop it. And so I do this all day. And so I feel extremely lazy. But if I can encourage other people to just sit and play, it does take the stress away, really. I mean, I should be in the kitchen cleaning the sink, putting the washing on. I don't even look under the bowl. Well, I can't lift the bowl, so that's a good job. It's a good job. But I feel terribly guilty. Oh, I've got the Magimorphia little pea. Wonderful, wonderful. In fact, a lady from the Abbey phoned me last night and said, oh, that book you brought in. So everybody wants the Magimorphia. And at the moment, as it's at the works, I'm pretty sure it's free shipping and it's £5, so that's pretty good. I did pay £5. The only one I didn't actually think about was the Colin Thompson one, because books are my thing. This is a sketchbook of mine, and it's just that's my big drawing that I do. This is my permanent doodle. Is bookcases, Victorian fireplaces, and bookcases. Just books, rows and rows of books. I was ill on the sofa, and this is a biro. This is a few years ago. It's just books. And I love these biros. They're really quite good. That's an old Victorian. In fact, I don't think it's Victorian. It's a French. I'm not quite sure what it is because it's got mirrors here. And it's all carved. It's French, and it's hidden in the bedroom so nobody can see it. Because if you can't see it, it won't go missing. But books are my thing. This is my doodle. And that's my other mum's bureau. And this is this is the sketch that I wanted to use for my thing, but it's biro, so it's quite old. Is that? It is quite old. And a life drawing of a gentleman, and thank he left his trousers on, bless him. He was only young, so that was quite that was quite good. That was quite good. Oh dear, that's a shame. Little pieces, they don't ship to Belgium. That's a shame, because they say it's free shipping. I think they're reduced on Amazon, but I couldn't swear to it. Now, if you wanted to do some more darker leaves to make it a bit more interesting, that's dried, and it's dried flat. And again, I love that, because I would probably go like this. I'd probably definitely put my hand on things, can't help myself. And I would have thought, oh, I've just kind of smudged it. So that's quite nice. And this paper is very, very thick. It's lending itself. And I don't normally do backgrounds, but I didn't want to waste this paint. So I was doing backgrounds. And I also used the blue for this one. And a completely different way of working this book. I flick, I see something, and I colour it. And again, that's not normally like me. I normally have to sit. I did this. This is all from here. You would not believe. And the blue also did, and the tiger. Again, I would never have thought of putting these colours together, because I wouldn't have thought of that tiger. But there was a lot of red, and when I first started, all these were full. Not full, but they were all had colour in them. And so I've used the bright colour, and now the next time I use those reds, they're going to be paler. What else did I do? I did that yesterday while I was watching You Little Pea yesterday. I did the background yesterday, and because it was blue, again a flick fine blue, again I would never have put those colours together. All these colours, I would never have put those colours together, but actually they work really well. They work quite well. And I was using them purely on the 18 colours that I had. That's how I started. And the greens, again, that was quite a nice experiment. This is when I first started. And all these pages have been coloured with what was left that I would have washed down the drain. And I would be very surprised if I couldn't fill this book nearly. Getting paler and paler and paler. And again, I did that background yesterday as well. And talking of which, because I like this green that I've made, I'm going to just colour these in as well. This is quite wet. I wonder if you can see. It is quite a puddle sitting on top of here. But I just could not bear to throw this colour away. And if you work fairly quickly, you can manipulate that everywhere. So although it's quite a bit of a puddle down here, that's only just damp now. But it's a lot wetter than I normally work. And the beauty of it is, this is the biggest brush, I think. This is, oh no, this is the number 5. I'm going to get all those leaves. So I don't have to go back to the palette. And that's why it doesn't hurt your hands as much on your wrists when you're going back to the palette every 5 minutes. I can just about do this. Just stroke all that colour. And I did think that would work, and that's why I bought these bigger paintbrushes, because I was hoping that this would work. And this book's proved that you can colour some nice big areas and still keep the paintbrush flat, and not do too much of this, because this isn't good for my shoulder and my arm, unfortunately. So again, love it, the fact I can keep going. And I like that green. And again, look, it's dry. How amazing is that? That's dry. Oh, hi Marilyn, welcome to Bunny's Designs. I'm just going through using up my paint still, and I keep thinking that I've got to finish, and then of course I've sprayed the water in it, which again is something I don't normally do, and in this yellowy, pale yellowy green here, I took some blue in here and I've mixed it with the green, and because I didn't wash the yellow out, I've got a green here, so I've got 3 greens here now. So I did that one yesterday from all the reds, and that was the start of the blues and the green, and I did the tiger the other day. So all these are from paints that I was washed away, and then last night I coloured this background in with some of the blue, and then I'm onto the greens now to do all this underwater green. I'm not thinking about what colours these underwater creatures are, which is sometimes a bit looser than I normally look, but I'm just loving the fact I'm using up these paints. And even here at the back there's some dried paint. That will be reactivated, and I will do another page of all pale pastel colours, and again just cannot throw these paints away. Just have a little bit of difficulty holding that today, so I'll just do this for a little while longer, and then I shall go on to my excuse me, I've got a bit of a chest infection today, but again just love the fact I'm in the Johanna Basford jungle, magical jungle, memory like a sieve, magical jungle. And again, I'm really enjoying this book. This book is the loosest, easiest way that I'm working. And as long as I'm really quick, I can stroke that big puddle out, and it's not going to do the pages any harm. This book is very, very good. It's the quality of the pages is fab. So I'm working a lot wetter than I normally do, which again is quite nice for me. Because I just can't hold that. I just cannot hold that palette. Oh, sorry. Just my husband yesterday, bless his socks, I asked him to do the vegetables, and I don't know if one of us is going slightly mad, bless him. I know he's not very well, but he cut the swede, the potatoes up and the carrots up, and he said, do you want to peel them? I said, no, if they're all right, just scrub them, because all the goodness is under the thingy. And as it was, they weren't actually brilliant, but it was going in the casserole, it was going in the slow cooker, so it didn't really matter. And I couldn't believe that when I still cut, there's some swede and turnips in there as well, parsnips, and I said I'll just chop them up same size pieces, potatoes a bit bigger because it's going in for a few hours. And he cut the swede up and left and didn't peel it first. And he did the same with the turnips, and I thought, he's 65 years old. This is a guy that lived on his own 7 to 10 years before he met me, so he was, he cooked himself. And I really tried not to shout at him, but I was so cross, because of course he'd filled them up and we'd put the boiling water in, so we had to take everything out. And because I was scooping these vegetables out, I used my hand and my wrist to hold the ladle. It's only a plastic ladle. I've got some brilliant, really cheap plastic, because in those days the plastic ladles and utensils were cheap. But now I've got arthritis, I brought them out again because they're very light and I can grip them. And they've got really big chunky handles. I bought them because they had really big, massive handles. But of course, because I scooped out this thing with the vegetables in it, I can't use my wrist today. Isn't that silly? So I shouldn't have shouted at him, bless him, should I? I'm getting carried away now with these greens. but poor hubby has to do everything. So I'm just having a bit of a dib into this one because I don't know what colour this is. And again, normally I would test the colour on a bit of paper, or I would have done a photocopy first. But that's the beauty of this book. It's the loosest I've ever worked. I don't know what colour this is going to be when I put it on here, but it's green and it's going on. And again, that's a real different way of working for me. And normally you think you wouldn't put this colour next to this green because it's a mint green. But because I'm using colours up, I don't have to think about it. And I really like that. I really like that way of working. So it's very, very loose, very, very free. And it comes out with some really unusual things. So I've got this green here, and there's quite a lot, and there's some water in there. And I've just wasted that, but I'm just going to put a little bit of this into here, which has given me now another colour. And there's it's very watery, but there is still, and shouldn't mix with these paintbrushes, that's naughty. It's given me another colour, and it's still very similar to this one, but it will be slightly different. So I don't know if anybody else finds that when they're in pain and not very well, they take it out on everybody. They really don't mean to do it. And my husband does everything for me. Everything. I had 2 cups of tea this morning. He carries my handbag down because I can't carry my handbag. Can't lift my handbag. So he's very wonderful. So you see, look, it is very slightly different. So that's quite nice. And you can tell that you miss things with the blue as well. Oh, thank you, Marilyn. It's my own fault. It's because I used it. I literally don't do anything. It's awful. I can't even get my knickers on a morning because I can't nip. I can't grip things. So I have to wear loose dresses or skirts because I can't get trousers on and off. So if I want to wear trousers, hubby has to do that for me as well. And so bless him, he's wonderful. And I shouldn't shout at him. So I've just put one drop of that green into that one, and it's changed the colour again. And you could do this all the way through, so now that's going to be a completely different colour. I don't need to do this, but I'm quite enjoying this, but it's very fast and very loose, and sometimes you don't want to think about, do I want that colour next to that colour? And this book takes it away because I am using up the paints. And it's dry straight away again, which is fab, because there's nobody smudges work like I do. And it's very quick. You see, now that's quite a big fat puddle of colour there, a lot wetter than I normally work. But if we're quick, I can drag that down so I don't have any lines. There is a bit of a line there. So it'd be interesting to find out if I actually hate any of these pages, because I am just using the paints up. So this is the smallest one. This is the number 3. So I've got a 3, 5 and a 6. And these are the Pro Art ones, and there are 103, I think. So they're very long riggers. That's what I was going to do, is just put a tiny amount of blue into there. Oh, wrong blue. This is the blue that I used, and of course it's all gone, so we'll just see if we can just find a smidgen, just enough there. And there was another bit. That must be another leaf. I thought I'd missed another bit somewhere. No, must have done it. So I hope this isn't too boring, but I'm quite pleased with all those different leaves. Gee whiz. We'll pop that there. Put that here. As I say, I'm normally prone to spilling, and so this was a bit darker, this one. But again, it's very wet. So I've really got to squish some of this out. In fact, what you could do is put your finger on it. You can see all that drip back in there. That is now quite a dry brush, because I don't want a big fat puddle of colour. And actually I'm quite enjoying that colour. So what I try to do is just find a plumpy side, a bit of a wide pattern. Oops. And that will allow me to manipulate the colour. That's a very pale colour, that. Very pale. Which I wouldn't have thought. You couldn't mix that colour in watercolours without white, because it's only that colour because of all the water that's in it. And again, that proves that the pigments in these Cotman watercolours is very, very good. It's extremely good, considering all this colour I've got out of it. And again, for £3 you could fill a colour book, which I think is amazing. And I only bought 3, so if I'd have bought 6, it would have been £4.94, because they were 99p. Now I think they're normally a couple of pounds, but I think I found a Cotman set for about £8, which again is quite fab, because that colour is going to last you quite a lot of watercolour books. And you just work damp in most books, but if you take a photocopy of everyone first. Photocopy is the best. If you can photocopy, if you can watercolour, or do watercolouring, that's what I call it, on a piece of photocopy paper, you can watercolour in any book. Does that make sense? You can photocolour on any book at all. The only time you've got to be extremely careful is the Bible journaling, which I'm going to do a bit later, because the idea of buying hundreds of pens and ruining your book and making it crinkle, and the other thing is, I also find that watercolouring is quite therapeutic, so you kind of get in your zone, and that's where you need to be for Bible journaling. It's not just about slapping paint on your Bible and making a pretty picture. Oh, I don't think it is. I think it's a little bit more than that, and I've gone in the wrong colour. I thought I had. But there's still quite a lot of colour in here. I'm just going to, with a damp brush, tease that colour down here. And again, I don't know what this is going to look like. I've not thought about colour. I'm just using colours up. But the one thing that I think happens, and it's by accident, is because all these colours come from 3 colours, there's a connection. So even if you make the biggest boo-boo, it doesn't matter, because there's still a connection of these colours, because they're all from 3 colours. And that makes them, it gives them a connection. So you can't really make a boo-boo. if that makes sense. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? That was a little bit too wet, but it'll be fine. May as well do all of them the same, because I've got it on the paintbrush and I can't wash it out. So, and I wouldn't have put a teal minty colour next to a pale pea green, but here that's what I'm doing, because I've now got 4 greens and this is what I'm doing. And as I say, this is really wet, really quick, and this is why you can do this in front of the TV. It's a very, very relaxed, chilled out way. I love the others, but you've just got to be on the ball, shall we say. You've got to think about what you're doing, because I don't really want to mess them up. So you can be really, really creative and think about it, or you can just chill out and colour in. And this is probably the nearest you get to your felt pens, I would think. I would think this is the nearest you get to your felt pens. You've got a pack of 18 and you just have to go with what you've got. So they're really different, aren't they? They're really different. I think these are orangey colours, aren't they? So we've got another green here. So again, I really like that lemon green, but let's see what I'm going to do with it. So have a quick look on here. And the other thing you can do with the greens is you can put red in them. Now there's quite a bit there, so there's a couple of paintbrushes, which is probably going to be enough for this one. Again, there's too much on that paintbrush, so I'll tease it out. So this is the palette now, this is now my colour, and teasing that out. Oops, bear me 2 seconds. But you could do this all day quite, well, I could do this all day quite happily. Again, I'm so amazed. So if you've got any questions, pop them in caps. I think I've told you which paints I'm using. But it's, oops, it's a bit wet. I still want to make a good job of this. I don't want to kind of rush it or kind of just slap anything down. But I think it's because these colours are made from 3 colours that there is a connection. So even though you don't think they go together, they do, if that makes sense. There is a chemist thing about it. There is a chemical reason why that happens. And I've just missed a little bit there. So while I'm down here, I'm just going to do these here because I quite like these. And again, I could swap brushes, but I quite like the idea. Now this isn't very wet now, so this is... I normally didn't do this, but because it's quite a nice page, I'm just altering the colours very slightly. And again, that's the beauty of that's it. That's the back of that leaf. And I may not have enough to come back to this and do the backgrounds that I want to. But in the Imagimorphy, the first book I did, the first page, I lost it. It's a little circle and it's full of colours. And I've put it somewhere. I'll be using those colours next, so nothing will be wasted. Oh, we have a person. We have a person outside. We don't normally have persons outside, so could be a bark alert. Not sure where the little boy is. Oh my goodness me. Oh wow. I'll have to show you the babies. That won't last long. Hubby's gone to work. Samantha's gone to college. And I've got lots of colour on there, so I can't waste it, so I'm just going to put that there. But I have to show you this. If I can do this really carefully. Whoops, my glasses are filthy. Oh my goodness. No wonder I can't see. My glasses are filthy. If I really carefully take this off here. And I'm trying not to make you sick. This is my desk. And can you see the 3 puppies in 3 beds? Fast asleep. I don't know how long that's going to last. I wanted to do I thought about doing a room tour. Sorry, just bear with me 2 seconds. I just have to put that there. But my room is such a mess, but I'm going to have to change it because it's an old cottage and we keep fighting this damp. We've been fighting damp for 25 years. And oops, gosh, my hands won't work, these clips. And if I put that there, do we think it might hold? Yes, hopefully. Sorry about that. Yeah, it's not often they're like that, bless them, all fast asleep. But they would stay like that if and even bless him, he's only young, is the King Charles, but the other 2 are quite old. So I might do a room tour before I change it round, because I've got a couple of shelves in the corner and it's an old cottage and it just does not like it. So I've just realised, look, that's the same as that one. So if I'm very clever, I remembered I've got the same colour. Oh, excuse me. So normally it's really peaceful and the cat's in the window behind me on a cushion hidden. And we don't know where Sooty the black cat is. Although he's been about the last few days in a row since we came back and I'm thinking why. And the only thing I can think is that he wouldn't eat his tea for months and months, but he was getting fatter. And then he came back with a collar on. I thought, well, he had a collar on, then he lost it because he's always mousing. And we think he lives in another village. He goes into the village. We've seen him going into the village. He just waltzes down the street into the village. And we think he has another family. So I have visions of him sitting all evening. He leaves here after tea and he goes and he sits all evening with a little old lady in front of the fire, having had another supper, and then he comes back before bed, or he'll go mousing. Although he never kills anything and brings it, but the little girl cat who was starved at Filey, the one that was on the sellotape monster, she brought a baby rat in yesterday. And I must admit, the babies are beautiful. They have feet about that length. And it was only about that big. It was a baby rat. And when they're clean rats, I don't mind rats in the country. I wouldn't like rats in towns because they live in dirty places, but the rats live, and the field mice are really beautiful little things. And they don't bother me as long as they're not normally in my house. But she brings all sorts. Again, I think it's with the horses next door. It attracts rats because... but we had a grey rat, and it was nearly as big as the cat. It was huge. It was huge. And it was grey, and its tail was white, and it was the cleanest thing. And it used to sit on a drain cover and nearly fill the drain cover. That's how big it was. And it used to just sit outside the back door, cleaning itself, as bold as brass. Of course, I didn't go out, didn't like it. I don't particularly like them, as I say, but the one thing about the country is they just live in fields, and they're very clean and particular things. And as long as he stayed away, I think he lived under one of the sheds, and then we destroyed the shed, and we'd found that's obviously where he lived. But this is the countryside, that's what you get. We had foxes behind the caravan, and the foxes were nearer the house, and they were like 3 foot away from me, but it was all wild. And when we cut it down, we found like a natural dug hole, and we'd realised that the foxes had been watching us when I stood my art in the old caravan. And the foxes were 20 foot from the house, because I let it go wild that little bit because I was a bit poorly. So it was all brambles. Of course, that was perfect. Nobody ever saw them coming and going, and it was perfect for them. Oh, little pea. There's nothing worse than having a kneecap and a main joint, is there? So you're going to have to do a lot of art, little pea. You're going to have your leg elevated and do nothing but art for 2 weeks. Reside yourself to getting all those things done that you need to do. And then you'll feel better, the fact that you're sitting there. That's what I used to do. I used to think, well, I've got all these things done that I wanted to do. I think that's kind of like a rope, isn't it? So I don't actually know what this is, if that's a rope. So I'm going to leave that. I think these are coral coloured, and there is some coral colours in here, look. But they will be very, very pale. I mean, it literally, this pan is going to be completely clean. So let's see what this does. It's going to be very, very pale, but yeah, it's quite pale, but it's quite nice. And again, I wouldn't make this colour. You certainly couldn't make this colour with watercolours. You need a lot. So some of these pages are going to get really pale. Which is a completely different way of working than I normally do, so that's quite pleasant. I've just gone into the next door one just to get a bit more colour out. And this is really quick. You can do a couple of pages in an afternoon. And all I've done is I've just reactivated a little bit of colour. and this is going to be a little bit wet, but the beauty of this paper is it won't take a big space of wet, but it will take a little one. And if I can maneuver that around, and there's some really nice pale colours. And then I'm going to, I think, oh, there's another one here, look. And again, I don't have to do anything with the paintbrush, it's still full of colour. So that's quite nice. And there's different things here, but I'm going to do this because I quite like this colour now. And again, it's on the paintbrush. And what else can we use here? So I'm just going to go into, it's next door. Oh no, I'm going to next door. So there's the orangey colour, and then this is the reddy orange. This is a tertiary, because I think that was the reddy red. That's the pinky red, so that was Elysian crimson. Then I made cadmium red, and then I added yellow. So I've got some oranges here, but then that's an orangey red, but that's a red orange. So I had two colours in between each secondary colour, and that gives you quite a nice range. But I will be doing that colour mixing again. And I'll just finish this bit off. And again, still using, this was the dried paint, but don't ever forget that dried watercolour paint can be reconstituted back into colour. And this is quite nice. You don't normally get these colours, except for on my little book of watercolours. You can have a lot of control over how much pigment you get in a damp brush. And that's the only time I've ever been able to get these colours, apart from when I did this experiment of not washing the brush out. And I got 20 pages from 36 brushes of colour. And that's when I put the Gansai Tambi watercolours into my little book of colours. Every time I had a big paintbrush full of colour. And of course it dried out, but it was still full of colour. I dunked it into the end of water. And as I say, that taught me how much paint you waste when you do colour swatches and you put your paintbrush in your water pot. You are washing away colour. And as I say, tight Yorkshire Lass, even though it was the Gansai Tambi watercolours are fab pigments. They are professional watercolours, of course that's why it worked so well. But I'm going to get 30 pages out of these, and these are the Cotman Derwent watercolour, Winsor Newton. So you can really get some nice colours out of them. I quite like those colours. They're very pale. But I quite like those. And I could do with using this. I've got these colours now, so just see. So if I just, oops, come out of there. Oh, hi Dorothy, welcome to Bunny's Designs. Oops, no. I may have broken it, just bear with me 2 seconds. My laptop's having a moment. Right, just bear with me 2 seconds. I'll just... It's having a think about something. I think it could be the laptop. So I can't actually see what I'm showing, but I think I'm showing this book. I'm going to wash the two brushes out. So I've been using these quite big, chunky riggers. They're Pro Art ones. I bought them at the Model Railway Show, but I have seen these about. And it's a 103. I think that's the actual... I can't think of the word. Set. To put different numbers. So I've got a number 3, a number 5, and a number 6. But I didn't really look at that. I looked at a thinner one, a thicker one, and then a really quite chunky one. Right, so what's happening with my laptop? Is it behaving itself? So my daughter brought this. This is a little tray you can buy at the model shows, but it's quite handy because things don't roll off it as normal. So I'm still using these colours, and I thought I'd finished with them, but I've re-sprayed them with water, and there's still quite a lot of colour in there. So that's not ready to go yet. I shall just shut that up, and I'm really enjoying this. So from this watercolour pan set yesterday, I've coloured this particular page using the blue. I finished the birds, and I may do a background, haven't decided. I did that yesterday with some of the reds, and again the pales, very pale colours. They are quite nice. Bear with me 2 seconds. I'll just put the autofocus on, and then I can... Oh, I moved the camera to show the dogs. That's why it's in a... I wondered why it had moved. So the bright colours started off like this. And this Johanna Basford Magical Jungle, or Basford, I think it hasn't got the E's, it must be. Really liked these bright colours. And they've slowly got paler and paler because I'm using the colours. But I'm using colours that I wouldn't normally put together. And I'm really enjoying this. Especially, say, the butterfly. I would not put those colours together normally. So I'm working through it, and I'm going to be using the colours I don't normally use. And again, quite like this idea. It wasn't too wet, but I've managed to do a background, which is unusual for me. Oh, thanks, Dorothy. I'm using the colours up, and they're getting to be really pale now. I mean, these are really pale colours. But really quite unusual greens. Oops. So I'm determined. Oh, just caught the nib on that pen. Determined to use all these colours up. And again, they're getting paler. This is what the tiger was made from, coloured from. So they are getting paler and paler, and the same reds, but now they look like this. So I will probably pick a floral one and do some very pale colours. But there's quite a few pages that I've used, and I will be using this. Oh, there it is. Look, this is the one I did the horse in the first Imagimorphy. I did the horse. And these are the same colours. These are the same colours. These are the Cotman watercolours. So the pigment in them is really very, very good quality, even though it's supposed to be student. They're very good, and for 99p I could fill a couple of colour books. So you don't need expensive ones to be for watercolour. So the next ones I'm going to use are these colours. And then there's the professional watercolours, because I don't really like this. Having said that, I completely finished the fox on that one, and so those three palettes will be used to colour this Johanna book. I love it, really love it. But what I wanted to show, so I'm going to stop this video. I'll stop this video onto here because I will be so thanks for watching. I say don't throw your paints away, just use a little colour book that you can use with quite large patterns, and then you can, or choose large patterns, and then you can colour it in with everything from your palette and you're not wasting any paint. So thanks for watching.